So in the fall of 1991, September of 1991, October, I was accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment at my college. I would be suspended for 9 months because of these allegations. What happened was this. I met this girl freshman orientation week. Now, I was 23 at the time because, as I've told you in other opportunities, I had been a very mixed up kid when I graduated from high school. And so I wound up bumming around for a bit, working as an English teacher, traveling and so forth. Until finally, when I was 21, 22, I got my head on straight, as it were. And eventually I realized I had to go to college, and eventually I decided that I wanted to be a lawyer. And I'd taken some practice LSATs and done very well. And I thought, this is what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a corporate lawyer. I am going to make a lot of money, go into politics, but not as a politician, but as an advisor, as somebody behind the scenes, because I'd always noticed that, the behind the scenes people, they always hung around. The politicians came and went, but those gray eminences always were there. And I wanted to be that. I wanted to be somebody who would have power, like, behind, as it were. So I had a very clear goal and a very clear notion of what I wanted to be when I went to college in the fall of '91. Now, I arrived in college, and because I knew who I was, because I was a little bit older, because I had my shit really together, I was pretty popular right off the bat. 2-3 days, I met like a bunch of people, and I met this girl called A. All right. Now, A, she was skinny, curly-haired, intense, not too pretty. She was too skinny to be pretty. She was just wound up too tight, but she stuck on me when I met her. I met her on a Saturday right after lunchtime. And she hung out with me the whole afternoon. And we wound up going to her dorm room that evening. And we, of course, made out in her dorm room, and she wanted to have sex with me. And I didn't. Not because I'm such a great guy, but because even at that time I realized that this girl was kind of nuts. She was a little bit too sticky, clingy. And the fact that she wanted to have sex with me so quickly struck me as weird. And thirdly, and frankly the most important reason that I had at the time, was I thought to myself, well, I don't really like this girl, but there are 2 other girls on this campus. After all, I'm 23, so I can date freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Good on me. Do I really want to be tied down to the first girl I happen to meet on campus? No. Well, she wasn't the first girl I'd met on campus. She was the first girl I'd made out with. But there were other prospects. And so, this was like the 3rd day of orientation. So I politely declined her offer of sex and, said that we would be in touch, and that I respected her, blah, blah, the usual shit, and left. Yeah, I went and met up with some friends, and the next day, a Sunday, and this is important later, on Sunday, I went to the dining hall, the main dining hall of my college, to look about a job, because I needed a job, because I'd had a falling out with my parents. We weren't really on speaking terms, and I was on my own. My parents were a whole continent away, and so were my friends and family members, and so I was really on my own. I needed money. And so I went to look for a job. And so that Sunday I was talking to the woman in charge of hiring at the dining hall. And then I wound up talking to this girl who lived down the hall. We talked about earthquakes, because she was from California and I was from Chile. There had been earthquakes in Chile and earthquakes in California, and we talked about that. We had a great old time. And then I talked to some other girl. I forget what I talked to her about. But the point is, on Sunday, I was with other people. And I forgot all about A. A week, 10 days passed, and I'm at the student mailboxes talking to another girl, a very pretty girl that I had my eye on. We'd eventually date for a bit, but nothing really came of it. That's neither here nor there. The point is, we were talking, and A passes me by with a friend of hers. They're talking, and then she happens to see me. And as she sees me, and she sees me with this other girl, daggers come out of her eyes. I mean, she looks like she wants to kill me right there on the spot, but she just walks on by. But the look was so And I had said hi to her as she passed by, but she didn't even respond. She passed by, clearly furious. I mean, like steam coming out of her ears. So much so that the girl I was with asked me, what's up with her? I thought, oh man, I gotta fix this. I gotta smooth this out somehow. Because I was thinking to myself, I just arrived on college. You can make a reputation pretty easily. You gotta be careful, And it's stupid to make enemies or create a situation where people don't like you. It's better to just be friends with everybody. That's what I was thinking. So I was thinking, I'll smooth things out with A at some later date, but I never got around to it. 10 days later, I got a letter saying that I was being accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment. Now, the charge of sexual assault, A alleged that on Sunday, not Saturday when we had met, on Sunday around lunchtime, I had gone to her dorm room and had tried to forcibly kiss her. I had tried to forcibly kiss her and had not succeeded because she had pushed me away, said that I was being very selfish, and then she'd thrown me out of her dorm room. That was the sexual assault allegation. And as to the sexual harassment allegation, she said that I had been sending her obscene email messages. Obscene email messages, and some were even threatening, but she had thrown away that quote-unquote filth from her computer, so she could not produce them. But people should take her word for it. Now, when I got these allegations, I read them. And for a brief moment, that was not as brief as I would like to think, for a brief moment, I thought I was losing my mind. Because you see, I had no memory, of course, of having sent any obscene email messages to this woman. And I thought to myself, that happens to crazy people. People who are losing their minds do things and they don't remember it. I must be losing my mind. I thought this for a brief moment, but of course, then the obvious kicked in. The obvious is, of course, that she was lying. She was lying about the emails. She was lying about the emails, and of course she was lying about me going to her dorm room on Sunday and trying to forcibly attack her, trying to forcibly kiss her. That was the allegation. I thought it was a bunch of bullshit. It was bullshit. And it was easily provable bullshit. Now, you do keep in mind, see, this was 91. Very few people had email. Our system was actually not called email, it was called blitzmail. And blitzmail, we just assumed that when we threw away a message, it just vanished into thin air. But of course, as we all know, emails are forever, and they stay on the server of whatever computer happens to be, running the whole email operation. And so it was no trick at all for the college computing department to look up every single email that I had sent to her, and see that I hadn't sent her any obscene email messages. And in fact, I'd only sent her one email message, and I hadn't been the one to send it to her. She had sent it to me because when we met, we hung out in my room on that Saturday, and she had taught me how to use the blitzmail system. And so in order to teach me how to use it, she had sent herself a message, and the message said in its totality, "Hello." That was the only message that had been sent from me to her or her to me. And there were no obscene email messages. This sexual harassment charge was a bunch of bullshit. Now, insofar as me assaulting her, going to her dorm and trying to forcibly kiss her, see, I had witnesses, and they were all women. Like I said, I'd gone to the dining hall to find out about a job. And the nice girl there, she had been a senior there, nice woman, she remembered me perfectly well. And she could swear that I'd been with her, from like 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And then after that, there was another girl who could swear to it, and another girl. They were all women, ironically enough, not one man. I just been hanging out with women. I hadn't slept with any of them. We just talked about different things or had different interactions. Anyway, between me receiving the first notification of these allegations and the actual hearing, it was like 2-3 weeks. And I prepared my defense, as it were. No lawyers, anything like that. It was all in-house, in college kind of thing. I was assigned a dean who helped me out to organize my stuff. And, I prepared for the hearing, and I thought to myself, I'm set. I shouldn't be worried about this thing. Because first of all, the email thing, that's a lie. It's an obvious lie. It's a provable lie, demonstrably lie. as so far as her alleging that I had tried to forcibly kiss her, which I thought was just, how is that assault if I try to forcibly kiss her but don't succeed? What is that? Attempted assault? I don't know. Anyway, the point was, see, there were people who could say that I'd been with them at the time that this woman alleged that I had assaulted her. And so she kept changing her story. She kept changing the story, changing the time. And so the final statement that she put in, like 2-3 days before the actual hearing, stated that I had gone to her room at nighttime, that evening, when I didn't have an alibi. Ironically, by the way, I didn't have an alibi because at that time, I had been at this ridiculous play, skit, whatever, like a orientation thing that you had to go to, talking about consent. How, you know, a man and a woman, when they had any kind of romantic sexual interaction, there had to be consent between the two. I'm not kidding. This was September of '91. And back then, there was this whole issue of consent. So this shit of consent now has been going on for 25, 30 years now. But anyway, I'd been at this play, but there hadn't been anybody who had seen me there, and I didn't recall running into anybody who could have remembered me, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, this woman kept changing her story. And so I thought, well, the harassment charge, you know, it's bullshit. And the computing department proved that it's bullshit. And as to the sexual assault charge, she keeps changing her story to fit with my alibis. Well, what does that show you? And she kept denying that I'd actually been at her dorm room the night before, and we actually had made out the night before, and she had offered sex the night before. So, you know, what is this? It's all bullshit. Because bottom line, you see, everything that she said that could be true, proven to be either true or false, turned out to be false. And everything that I said that could be proven to be true or false turned out to be true. The truth was on my side. So when I walked into the hearing, I thought to myself, I'm set. It's over. Because I'm telling the truth. And it's provable, right? "90 minutes later, the hearing ended, and as a result of that hearing, I was suspended for an entire academic year. I was suspended for 3 consecutive terms that would start at the conclusion of that fall term. So I guess I wasn't that big of a danger if I was allowed to continue with this, with that term. I'd be suspended the winter, spring, and summer terms of 1992, and I would be allowed to return in September of '92 if and only if I submitted a reapplication. All right. So as I said before, I didn't have any place to go to. I didn't have any money either. And it was a very, very difficult time, but I managed to talk my way into a job in Washington at a law firm, as a matter of fact. And I got to see what a law firm is like and what a lawyer's life is like, up close and personal, and it wasn't appealing, but that's for another post. I managed to stay at the home of an elderly alum of my university, very kind man who was very decent to me, and I miss him very much. And when I got back in September of '92, after doing the reapplication, which was a humiliating process, well, I was a very different man, and my position at my college was very different. You see, when I'd arrived in September of '91, you know, I was full of beans. I had the world by the balls. When I got back in '92, I was frightened and kind of nuts. Coupled to that, I was completely ostracized by the people in my college. Because, you know, I hadn't had a base of friends when this all had gone down. And so, you know, you need time to build a base of friends. And I hadn't had that because this all happened, you know, as I arrived in college. And so since I didn't have any friends, a lot of people had heard wild stories about it. And so what happened was that on more than one occasion, it must have been maybe 4 or 5 times, some man or woman would come up to me, right up to my face, with a very angry and righteous expression, and say, what is a rapist like you doing on our campus? And in my naivete, I would argue, I didn't rape anybody. I was accused of it. It's a lie. And I didn't even get to that part when they would just like yell at me some more, call me a rapist a few more times, and stomp away. And everybody would look at me, because this usually happened in a very public place. And everybody would look at me and then turn away. And they would want nothing further to do with me. It happened so many times that I can't even remember that I'd be walking down the street, walking down the sidewalk, and I'd see somebody, coming in the opposite direction, and they'd be staring at me, man or woman, didn't matter. And they would be staring at me, and they would look so angry. And I knew what was coming, and inevitably, it always did happen. I would pass them, and they would catcall behind me, rapist. And that happened, I don't know, more than a dozen times. I didn't keep count. Why would I? It was hard, So I did the smart thing. I focused on my studies. Now, because of the suspension, I wasn't allowed to go on any kind of foreign study program because I was deemed a security risk. I had a lot of problems, as it were, because of this incident. I wasn't allowed to do foreign study, and almost all the language programs required a foreign study, and so it's just a whole hassle. I rushed fraternities. It was a waste of time, because no fraternity was going to offer me a bid, no matter how great a guy, no matter how charismatic they might have thought I was, or what a great guy, or whatever. No fraternity offered me any bid. I was completely ostracized. Weekends, I just stayed in my dorm, and I did the smart thing. I studied. I doubled up a lot of terms so I could make up for the lost time for the suspension. And when in fact, I graduated with a double major in June of '95. I graduated with a double major with honors. I'm very proud of that fact. Because with all the shit that I had to put up with at college, and the social ostracism, and feeling like shit every single day for those 3 years that I was there, I graduated, and I graduated well, Hey, in my graduation, I got to shake Bill Clinton's hand. He was the commencement speaker that year. I have a picture with the son of a bitch and everything. And, well, I left college, and I'm not gonna lie, the whole thing affected me for years. I would say realistically, I didn't really get over that whole incident until I would say 2002, at least. It affected me severely. But what are you gonna do? So that's my story time story. Now, here we start the second part of this episode, as you were. You see, in every story that you hear, there are two approaches to it. You see, on the one hand, you can feel sympathy for the person that the story happens to. You can say to yourself, poor coach. Oh, boo-hoo. Yeah. And lots of times people telling a story are telling it as a bid for sympathy. They want you to feel sorry for them. They want you to feel that they're better somehow, or a victim or some shit like that. Okay. Now, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the second reason to tell a story. And the second reason to tell a story is the best reason to tell a story, is to learn lessons from it. Now, you all know that I fucking hate the pseudonym of Coach Red Pill. I think it's just idiotic and juvenile. I hate it. But I really love it because it keeps me on track as to what I'm trying to accomplish with this channel and these posts. I am trying to teach you shit, important shit. Now, my particular sob story, you can take it or leave it, believe it or not. You can question it or poke holes in it. It doesn't matter. The important thing are the lessons to be learned from it. Okay? The lessons to be learned from it are the only reason that you should care about any story, including this one. You don't have to believe me or you can believe everything. You could feel really sorry for me or not, but I don't really care about the sympathy aspect. And I don't care about, arguing about it or what I should have done or shouldn't have done. What I'm interested in are the lessons that to be learned from this story, because they're key, okay?